6,000 people in line at 6 o'clock in the morning when I got there with the donuts, thinking, I'll pass out donuts to the people that come in. I went, holy cow. And I went to the first person in line. I said, what's your name? And she told me her name. What do you want to do? And she told me, I said, you're hired. She goes, what do you mean? I said, you sat out here all night? You're hired. And it was that attitude.
Because she had dedication?
Yes. Yeah. Her daughter was with her. I hired her daughter, too. The woman that I hired, she became Employee of the Year several years later.
Really? Did she move up the ladder, too?
Oh, yeah. She was a supervisor in the casino.
Wow. Wow. You've inspired so many throughout the years.
I've had a good run.
Yeah. What's some of the best advice you can give somebody who's starting up like a startup? How about like a startup podcast company?
Well, I put my consulting hat on and I say, you better do a SWOT analysis.
Okay.
So you know what the strengths and the weaknesses and the threats and the opportunities are. But that's just a set of facts up here. What you really need is something in the heart. You've got to, if there's something you love and you want to do it, then just find a way to do it. Don't worry that it seems like it's out of reach. Don't worry that I don't know how to get there. Nobody does. Whoever you see out there doing something, they didn't know either before they started. So you got to believe in yourself, go with your dreams, and take chances, And then along the way, we always would tell people, maybe you should repot yourself every now and then, clean out the soil and the roots and see where you really are and where you really want to be. And we used to do that for our senior executives all the time because you don't want people to think, I got nowhere left to go. Because if you're thinking about it, you can always find where somebody could get from here to the next place. And so I see things in those terms because I was, an HR guy for so long.
Yeah, dealing with complacency.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have this fire. Again, go back to your heart. What do you love? And if you start not loving it, go back and try to figure that out because that happens, sometimes. But find what it is because that's when it's not a job.
Instead of repotting yourself, unplugging yourself and plugging yourself back in, right?
That's a good reboot.
Yeah, a reboot.
Yeah, sure.
What's the best advice somebody gave you?
There were two. One was the difference between a good manager and a great manager is your ability to communicate. So no matter what you're doing, make sure you can communicate whatever it is effectively. And it's just you. You can't expect others to do what you do and let people know what you do. So this communication thing was a big deal. And then one day I was sitting in a meeting with Wynn, and he comes in and he goes, and he had just been out to Nellis Air Force Base, and he was with the commander there, and they were talking military stuff. And he came back and he goes, in the military, where people have to do what they're told to do or people die, you don't have a lot of choice in the direction you're given. But he says, in our world, these are adults we're dealing with, and so we got to give them free thought. So starting today, all you guys, when you get ready to do something or say something or you're ready to explain why. What? You have to explain why to your employees, and that's the only way they're going to do it. We go, yeah, well, that sounds pretty good, Mr. Wynn. He goes, no, I'm going to tell them. And he calls all the employees into the ballroom. He goes, from now on, all of these managers and supervisors have to explain why whenever they tell you to do something. And you can see the managers going, well, how do we get out of this? And he says to the employees, and if they don't say why, you can just say no. And it was like, he said, yeah, I know it's planned insubordination, but it'll force these guys to think and to plan and to document and to study and execute well and to listen to people when they have problems with it and resolve it. All those things we need managers to do. And this was early on in my career with him. And it really made sense that no matter what, from now on, you got to explain why. And it took it up from a level the old guys would say, just do it because I told you. You know, and you go, oh, yeah, okay. But the generation that I grew up, and certainly all those that came after me, there was this questioning aloud. And it was a good thing to have learned because it forces you to be a better thinker and a better manager.
Excellent. That must have put everybody on their ears. And how did that, was that pretty effective, that strategy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was effective. The other aha moment is when we were opening the Mirage, we were still at the Golden Nugget. We were there a long time planning, and Mr. Wynn made me go work in housekeeping. You know, he says, you'll find out. And so I go there and I find out that there's a huge turnover. The maids come and they go. You know, it's hard to clean a room, blah, blah, blah. And so I went to the housekeeper. I said, how can we fix that? And she said, well, it's a tough job. You know, it's not for everybody. So I went and I interviewed a bunch of the maids that had come and gone, and I found out that they left because nobody said thank you, essentially. Nobody ever caught us doing things right. They always told us what was wrong, but I don't need that. And so we made them start telling people when they did things right, rather than only telling them something when they did something wrong. So between explaining why and catching people doing things right, it was the basis of the employee relations plan that we had at Steve Wynn's places. And it was pretty good because employees felt respected and they felt like people knew where they were and who they were. So that led to a pretty good run of really high employee satisfaction and customer satisfaction surveys. We were number 2 on the Forbes most admired list for many years, which is good news, except if you
Huge.
except the year that you're 3. That's how Steve Wynn would look at it. If you were 2, how come you didn't become 1?
Right.
Or how did it happen that now you're 3? So there was not much glide in the things that.
But that way of thinking has put him where he is today.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so don't think about yesterday or today even. What's tomorrow all about? What are your problems? What could you do better tomorrow than what you're doing today? And if you can figure it out and prove it to me, then we can do it. And we did some pretty cool things, all of us, along that way.
Always looking ahead. Was there ever any sense of staying present?
Not if you want to keep your job.
Okay.
He was never about the present.
No.
And he would, I mean, if he did something yesterday and the same thing was better today, he would just do it better. He's that kind of a detail guy. And that driven to be as good as you could be. You know, you want to be the best, you want to be perfect, but it's probably something less than that because of a whole bunch of things. But the fact that you could be right up there at a 9.9 is where you want to focus on. Don't worry about being perfect, he would say, because perfect is the enemy, or perfection is the enemy of progress.
Huh.
All right? And so, you got to be careful there, you know. Think about tomorrow. And, I mean, fortunately for us, there were a lot of low-hanging fruit problems that we came up with wild ideas to fix, and we were able to do it. Just that was an environment that you wanted to work in. You wanted to be around something like that. So, again, watching the Siegfried Roy show, that really blew our minds because that proved to us that we might be able to do something. I remember when we were getting ready to do the Mirage, they said, no computers. This is a business of people to people.
Really?
Get rid of those computers. Huh. That lasted about 2 weeks.
I was going to say.
Boy, we almost drowned. But we went from no computers to heads over heels into computers and networking and stuff. And we did things with computers that I'm not a computer guy. I'm an HR guy, but I got to do like computer stuff around HR that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and now you can't live without them.
Well, I was the first online application system.
Really?
I mean, that's the only way you can apply anywhere today. But for all intents and purposes, I was it.
For the whole corporation or for
the world?
For the world.
Nobody was doing this. Or fewer than you could count on one hand. So there wasn't anybody you could find that could help you. And once you did it, you might run into somebody because they'd call you and say, what's this? Or how'd you do that? But I had to learn computers. I had to go back, take some courses just so I could hold my own in a conversation about computers. Again, to go from no computers to the first online application. And I did it because at Mirage, we couldn't read the applications that people filled out. And so they went in the system wrong. You know, I don't know how to spell that last name, so I make it up. Or then I file it wrong. Or who knows, I was losing more applications than I could find. And we had 55,000, which was 40,000 more than anybody else had ever taken. So you can imagine what was going on. And I said, we're never going to do this again. We're going to find a way to do this without paper. And back then in 88 and 89, nobody knew, or 94. I mean, the internet didn't start until 96, for all intents and purposes.
Yeah, it didn't really start booming until like then.
That's right.
Yeah.
98, when Bellagio opened, we had networking. Ooh, that was the first time anybody had done that. So it was fun. And again, you talk about what advice would you give people. Sometimes it's pretty good to get a little bit outside your comfort zone.
Oh, yeah.
If you've got an idea and it takes you up to the edge, keep going. You might find some things that'll grow you as well as what you're trying to develop.
I was just going to say you can't grow unless you're outside your comfort zone.
Yeah. Yeah. And we were talking to people who didn't know what we were talking about. And then we thought we didn't know what we were talking about. But we figured it out. We learned to communicate it better and sell it. But getting online applications, Steve Wynn thought that this was the dumbest idea
Did he really?
I'd ever done. He and Mark Shore, they said, nobody's going to do this. And nobody had. But we had done surveys and we had done focus groups, and we thought, this ought to work. Come on, it's a good idea. But nobody had ever done it. So we were supposed to open the lines at midnight. And he said, open them at noon, the day before midnight. I said, well, nobody's going to apply. He says, and nobody applied because I had huge publicity about you can apply to this thing online starting at midnight. And he was killing me. Between noon and midnight, we got maybe 25 applications.
Really?
You know, it's like, and I said, well, this is us just trying it out. This isn't even people out there. And he was so mad at me. He thought this was going to fail. Go get the paper. I want you to get set up for lines. And so I held my breath, and at 1 minute to midnight, we had a thing that like a ding that went off when we got one, a little bell. And I was almost dead by this time because 23 spent all this money and I got 23 applications. You're an idiot. How could I let you have done this? But anyways, 1 minute of, this thing started dinging. And at the end of 24 hours, we had 12,500 applications.
Wow.
Nobody'd ever done before. We ended up getting 125,000 more in the next month. And this system handled what people struggle now to handle, which is, transcribing information from something into another system and filing stuff. Electronic storage today is what everybody does. Back then, Microsoft and Xerox didn't know what I was talking about. We were out there alone trying to figure out how to do this. And this thing that was for me a big aha moment because I'm not a computer guy.
Yeah.
But I did things that my colleagues in human resources dreamed about and got away with for many, many years.
Making your life easy, too, just forming that database.
Well,
did it bog the system down at all for having that many right off the bat like that? The initial one?
no, what bogged the system down was Bellagio when we said you have to call and make a reservation to come in and fill out an application. That's as technical as we could get back then. Mm-hmm. And who's going to call to make an appointment to fill out an application? We had 65,000 calls in the first day, and the switches in Las Vegas went down, and we didn't know what we were doing. I mean, nobody knew about those kinds of call centers before, and the number of people you needed. And I was hiring, 50, 60 people a day to work this call center, where I thought, 5 or 6 people could handle this. How much could we get? we got 90,000 applications there. People having to come in and sit at a computer and put it in themselves into a computer. That's as far as we got with Bellagio. But it then went into the system. There was no paper, and that was pretty cool.
Were you high-fiving yourself that 1 minute before midnight and all those dings were coming in? Were you like patting yourself on the back?
No, I was patting myself on the back maybe 5 or 6 hours later.
Okay.
When the flow was just, holy shit. How many of these we going to get? But nobody was going to listen to me, and they didn't care.
They didn't care.
And they said, well, sure. I mean, is that what was supposed to happen? You know, they grudgingly got on board there. It was a great system, and we had a lot of fun doing stuff like that. You know, there were no computers when I went to Cornell.
Mm-hmm.
There's one guy in a computer lab, and the computer was bigger than this building. And to watch computers grow into the business tools that, even back then, if you thought about it, you would say, yes, but you had no idea how you were going to get, you know, in those increments. And, you know, guys like Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, they got that down pretty quick. So, but I love computers, and I love all the things you can do.
It's a great time to be alive. I mean, minus the whole pandemic and everything, but like just watching the technology grow.
I mean, where did Zoom come from? I mean, they might have had 6 months before that that they were on the market, and then boom, Zoom. You know, something. Yeah.
What do you think the best all-time best invention ever is, in your opinion?
You know, computers and the iPhone. Those were game changers.
Mm-hmm.
Both of those things. Computers way in the beginning, and then, you know, into Windows and stuff like that. But the iPhone, all the things you can do in an iPhone. After we opened Win, and I had developed all these systems that were so great and worked so well here in America, and we took it right to China, and nothing that we had in America was right for what we needed in China. You know, we had people sitting at home filling out applications, you know, at the breakfast table, you know, or they had, you know, a little home computer, or their kid did it, who knows. But in China, it was all cell phones, and nobody had gone mobile anywhere, and we had to convert this thing to mobile. Now, China was well into mobile in a lot of different types of applications. So if you said, look, I'd like to recruit people mobily and take their applications mobily and interview them mobily, they were all for it, because you know, they couldn't do enough technologically back there. So that was fun, learning to do what you do in America, doing it in China with a completely different language and culture and all kinds of things.
Amazing. What do you do for fun? Which some of your hobbies besides play music, of course?
I like to read a book.
Yeah.
I like to take a slow boat ride someplace. I like to take a walk in the woods.
Yeah.
Not much anymore. I mean, I've got a new company that does online training.
Mm-hmm.
We're launching that right now.
What's the name of that? Give that a
That's
plug.
Tiny Classroom Training.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to launch towards the end of this year. It's all online soft skills training for managers and supervisors. Very clever formatting and presentations. I think this is something that the market will like. So I've been working on that for a year and a half or so. I write a blog every day, unbelievably, The Art of Motivation. Just something I started 12 years ago for a client. You know, a motivational message every day, and now I write one every day for 12 years. It's like my going to church in the morning mantra.
And you also do like a live cast as well, right?
Yeah, we do a thing called Tiny Classrooms Live, which is a Facebook thing. And we've done 80 or 90 sessions of those since the pandemic started. And just my partner, who's a clinical psychologist. So we got a doctor and an HR guy playing around on the tube. Something to do.
You keep busy.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, you keep busy. That's good. One more question before we get out of here. Hologram concerts. You think Vegas is going to be the mecca of hologram concerts? See, it's been kind of a thing, like popping up. They've got like a Michael Jackson hologram.
Well,
Freddie Mercury.
if there's any entertainment ROI to be gained, it'll be in Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a good idea that they can turn into revenues into gaming revenues, then it's a great business model. But the showrooms I don't know, they're changing. I think these live shows are going to change into something else, and that just could be one of the types of things that they would go to.
Mm-hmm.
But the good news about Vegas, if there's a good new idea, they'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
So if those guys think Vegas would be good for them, pitch it, because you never know.
You never know.
Yeah.
Dream big. This has been such a great conversation, and thank you so much for taking time to come talk to me.
Thanks for listening.
Oh, I can listen to you all day. We could go for 5 hours, but we won't go 5 hours. I won't keep you here. But no, thank you so much. This has been really, really good, and thanks again. This is awesome.
My pleasure.
Are you? But one more thing. Are you a 46er by any chance? You do?
No. No. I can walk sometimes 40 miles a month, but I'm not a 46er.
No, not a 46er. Right on. Thank you so much. And I want to thank my sponsors. Got to give love to the sponsors. Thank you to EJA Moving Services, the professional movers. When it's time to move and relocate, hit up EJAmoving.com. If not for the sponsors, this podcast is not possible. So thank you to all my sponsors. Also, thank you to attorney Dave Longaretta. That's my man right there. If you need legal advice, give him a call today, 315-735-6162. Thank you to Saranac Brewery and Utica Coffee for always keeping us hydrated here around the D. You guys have yourself a great weekend, and I will see you again on Monday for Local Music Monday. And, yeah, see ya. Have a good day.